This is episode 75 of Pinnacle FC. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you. 3/4 of a century. We're just about there. Will we reach 100 by the end of this calendar year? Or at the end
Oh,
of the season, I should say. Maybe we'll fall
yes.
somewhere during the World Cup. That's probably where we'll be.
I think we'll be there by the end of the season because we've got a number of Champions League midweeks to come still, as well
Are
as
we
the
gonna
weekend stuff.
we're gonna pop some champagne?
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
raise a glass, have a toast when we get to that point. I'd love to raise a glass for a profitable weekend, and that's what we're going to try to provide here on Pinnacle FC as we're looking ahead to the biggest matches this weekend across European football's biggest leagues. All the markets that we use are courtesy of Pinnacle. Bet smart, bet Pinnacle. Follow along across our social media accounts on X, on Instagram, on the subreddit, Pinnacle Sportsbook, all that good stuff to keep you up to speed with the latest and the greatest. We're coming off a week of European football. We're recording this podcast Wednesday before the games are played. The Thursday fixtures in the Europa League and the Conference League are yet to play out. So we move forward, and as we do each and every time on this podcast, let's start off in the English Premier League. Last weekend was a little bit of a wild one. Crystal Palace is descending into absolute chaos. The latest is Mateta wants out. I mean, you're celebrating because you won a head-to-head last week. We
That was
should
the only
mention
good thing about my weekend.
we mentioned this. I mean, we recorded the podcast before Gahey left, before Glasner threw the nuke at his club, and that's descending into chaos. Manchester United looked like an actual real team last week, and Man City, all of a sudden they went 13 undefeated, lose the derby, lose in the Arctic Circle, and who knows where they go from here against Wolves this weekend. So let's
Yeah.
dig in. I'm not sure if you want to start there or elsewhere. What's catching your eye this weekend in the Premier League?
Yeah, I mean, just to round off your intro there, I mean, it's been a wild couple of weeks really in the Premier League. I mean, none of the current top four have won in the last two match weeks, which is quite something. Um, and I don't think there's been any head-to-heads between them either. Oh, there's been Arsenal, Liverpool, but other than that, it's Villa failed to win their last two,
Right.
Arsenal their last
And
two.
Unai
So
Emery's now talking about like
yeah,
financial fair play. It's like these are little warning signs that I don't particularly like, especially when I'm looking at the betting markets and what that may mean. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
carry on.
Yeah, last week it was hard work. There were some real surprise results in particular. Hoping we get back to a bit of normality this week with, yeah, I mean, I've got, like I said at the start, I like the slate. I think there's some value to be had. There are still some massive question marks around some of my picks, just in terms of the uncertainty, the likes of Crystal Palace, who you mentioned, and Manchester United off the back of that win. So. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to start with the West Ham Sunderland game, which kicks us off really, because
First one.
I think that the market has reacted too strongly to West Ham's win at Spurs. They are the plus 155 favourites to beat Sunderland at home, and I just think back Sunderland draw no bet plus 110 is a pretty straightforward play for me. I mean, West Ham at home this season have been absolutely atrocious. Just 2 wins in 11, 8 defeats. Obviously, the last time they played at the London Stadium in the league was that defeat to Nottingham Forest, which was a body blow. But yeah, I just don't think we can read too much into the win at Spurs. I think that people might be getting too carried away. Everybody's going to Tottenham at the minute and winning. So apart from teams in the Champions League, it seems. So yeah, I'm not getting too carried away. And obviously, Sunderland had that really good come from behind win against Crystal Palace. Away from home, yes, they've not won a lot of matches. But they have got 2 wins and 4 draws, so they've avoided defeat more than they've lost on their travels. And they've got a full complement nearly. All the players are back from AFCON. Yeah, I think I just trust them more to be more solid, be more hard to beat than West Ham, who have shown glimpses of something. But yeah, I'm not willing to jump on them and make them favourites here. I think Sunderland have shown more than enough.
What have they shown? Like that, the Spurs season's turning into what played out last season. The Premier League's completely pushed to the side in preference of Champions League football. And they've done well enough in the Champions League. I mean, a really fortunate turn of events in that game against Dortmund, although Spurs did start very well, but the sending off, I mean, it was so soft, a little bit of a high challenge, but there was no malice. That I really just don't like it, the way that that's adjudicated. So yeah, I mean, West Ham have the worst expected goals against at home of any side in the Premier League. It's north of like 23, I believe, in 11 home games. They just ship goals for fun. You look at their squad, there's nothing that makes you have any confidence that this team is going to go on any kind of run of form. I'm sorry, they're going to be right in the relegation fight all the way. And Sunderland, like you documented last week, like it's not just about the data, it's the way that they play. They get a couple of players back from AFCON, coming off a nice win over Crystal Palace last week, coming from behind, by the way. 2-1 was the final. They beat West Ham in the reverse fixture 3-0 as well. So yeah, plus 110, draw no bet. It's actually my favorite play in the Premier League in terms of this week's slate. Let's see how it plays out. Looks like a little bit of a trap, but I'm willing to fall into it and take the risk. Anything else, Jake?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my pro Wolves stance and back them on the handicap against Manchester City. You're getting plus 1.75 of a goal, so half you bet on plus 1.5, half you bet on plus 2. So if they lose by 2 goals, we lose. It's a half loss. But I think they can keep it closer. I mean, as I've documented numerous times on this show now, their defensive data is fantastic, and it has been under Rob Edwards. I think of the last 7 Premier League matches, only Arsenal have got a better defensive record according to expected goals than Wolves. And Wolves haven't had a cakewalk of a schedule in that time either. They played Liverpool, they played Newcastle, they played Man United, they played Brentford, who are red hot, and they played Arsenal. So it's been a tough schedule, and they've dealt with it extremely well defensively. And this City team looks like it's running on empty, especially at the top end of the pitch. Erling Haaland is failing to score more often than not at the moment, which is a huge problem for City.
He's not getting involved, not getting many touches on the ball at all.
It's becoming very easy to play against Manchester City, it looks like. Yeah. And the results kind of suggest that's the case, because it's 2 wins in the last 7, I think. And that obviously one was the Carabao Cup at St James's Park, and the other was against Exeter. So they are getting nullified fairly comfortably. I mean, Sunderland kept a clean sheet against them. Chelsea only conceded once. Brighton only conceded once. United kept a clean sheet, and obviously Bodo Glimt was 3-0 up and cruising. And that's the other thing that we can factor in here, is that City played in midweek in the Arctic Circle on an AstroTurf pitch. Like, we don't know what recovery is going to be like for them. I know there was a couple of key players that didn't travel through illness, injuries, suspension, but still, that's not ideal preparation for what is becoming a very tough game against Wolves. Every team's finding it very difficult to break them down, and yeah, the market's pricing Wolves up as almost like a Burnley, and I think they're a much better team than Burnley. I think they're harder to beat, and if they are to lose, I think it'll be a 1-0, 2-1 sort of game. I don't think it'll be a 5-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. I don't think it'll be racking up a score. And obviously City, after that defeat to Bodo Glimt, they've got a midweek Champions League game that's going to have huge importance as well for next week. They're playing Galatasaray, which admittedly should be a fairly straightforward home win, but they have to win that to finish in the top 8. So not an ideal spot, and I do like Wolves getting such a big head start.
Yeah, if the game was at the Molineux, I'd be with you. I just don't know if there's going to be a response from City. Semenyo will come back into the team. Certainly, he can cause problems. If anything, I side with what you're playing, but I'm just going to stay away altogether. You mentioned Burnley. I know they're a poor side. They're coming off a 1-1 draw against Liverpool, but don't you have to back them playing Spurs? Like, based upon the way that things have tracked for Spurs, like, they get this lift by winning in the Champions League over 10-man Dortmund, who played 70 minutes down a man. But Spurs in the Premier League have just been absolutely garbage. Like, let's not forget about that. They lose at home to West Ham. They're continually in trouble. Burnley's been competitive, more competitive in recent weeks. And either you can get them on the Asian handicap at plus half a goal at minus 124. So a win or a draw means you win your bet, backing the home side in Burnley, or you just play them on the straight up handicap plus a quarter of a goal at plus 110. I'm fine with either of them. I kind of lean to the plus quarter of a goal at plus 110 because based upon the way that things are playing out with Spurs, I think that Burnley could potentially win this outright. I think they look at this game with Spurs playing a midweek fixture, playing in the Champions League next week, and yes, the win helps them, pushes them into the top eight. But I mean, it's a decent spot for Burnley, who's shown a little bit more life in recent weeks. I still don't love the side, Jake. It's more betting against Spurs than making an absolute pro Burnley play here.
Yeah, I don't mind your thinking. I definitely would be. Well, I wanted to make the same play, but I just don't think the price is there. I wanted a little bit more juice. I thought Spurs would be at least even money here, just based on the fact of how bad Burnley are. I mean, the XG data for Burnley is the worst in the league by a country mile. Fewest expected points, most expected goals conceded, fewest expected goals created. Like, they are the worst team in the league. So even though Spurs are struggling, they're no great shakes themselves, I would have wanted a slightly bigger number for Burnley to get them offside.
I just think it's a reality when it comes to Spurs. Like, I don't think that number, and the fact that clearly some money's come in backing Burnley, I just think it's like a completely counter Spurs play here. So
maybe, yeah. I mean, the Spurs have got players coming back fit now. Obviously, Dominic Solanke's back. Xavi Simons is back from his ban. He can play again.
They lost 2 games in the Champions League. I mean, they drew United. I know that Darren Fletcher was in charge, but they showed a little something that game. They were outplayed. Same with last week against Liverpool. They were outplayed, but they managed to find a way. There's no reason to believe that Burnley at home can't find a way against a very poor Spurs side. They're still a bad team. Yeah, and I think they're playing for the Champions League this year. That's what it is again. They're a cup competition team back-to-back years. That's what they are. So, yeah, I'll make we'll see how much or if this makes my board, but definitely a pro Burnley play, if anything, in this game. Arsenal, Manchester United this weekend. Anything there?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards backing Arsenal on the handicap. It's a full goal, so if Arsenal win by a goal, we get our money back. Win by more, we get a winner. It's at plus 102, and the thinking is just that United caught City at a good moment, and I don't think they're going to be able to do the same to Arsenal, because I think Arsenal have just got so much more quality, so much more strength in depth, so much more defensive resolution, so many more options defensively as well. Obviously, City were very, very limited with what they could field last week, and they have pretty much all but sewn up top spot in the Champions League, a bit like Liverpool did last season. So they don't have to worry about.
They're through in the top 8. I mean, that's the important thing.
I think they finished top apart unless Bayern. I think they need like an 8 or 9 goal difference swing by Munich over the next 2 games. So, which is obviously doable with Bayern, but they're going to finish top. And as we've said before, it doesn't really matter where you finish as long as you finish in the top 8. So their job's done there, and I think they're going to really knuckle down and try and get back on the winning track. Because they've had 2 very dull 0-0 draws, haven't they, in the league back to back? Very good at Inter, were Arsenal, and I think this is a good spot for them to take advantage of Manchester United. And it does feel as though, like we were talking about with the West Ham game, that the money's come too much for Manchester United off the back of that one performance against City, a team that they have historically done pretty well against anyway, no matter who the manager or the players are. And this is a much, much stiffer test going to Arsenal, who I think are by far the best team in the league. And Arsenal at minus 166 is a lot bigger than I was expecting it to be, I've got to be honest. I think if Ruben Amorim was in charge here, you'd be looking at minus 200, minus 220, something like that. I think it'd be that much shorter, but everyone's bought into this one game of Carrick and what he's done. But yeah, this Arsenal team are completely different. They won't let United do the same things to them as what they did to City. So I'm quite happy to take Arsenal on the handicap and just back them to win and kind of make United look pretty ordinary, because that midfield is still looking a little bit flaky for me in United.
Well, except Kobe Mainoo can play in a midfield 3, and it's amazing what can happen when you play players in their natural positions. Play Bruno Fernandes higher up the field, play Ahmad higher up the field. The fact that it isn't Ruben Amorim says everything, and that's baked into the price here. I just need to watch and see a little bit more of United. So I'm just going to swerve this entirely this weekend and just watch as a fan and not as a punter. So we'll leave this one alone. Okay, anything else in the Prem?
Yes, I like the Sunday slate. I've got Newcastle to beat Villa at minus 105. I think good spot for Newcastle to get back on the horse. They're very, very strong at home in general. They've got a really good record at home as well against Unai Emery. They usually absolutely smash them to pieces. I think the last two meetings have been 5-1 and 3-0. I think stylistically they're a bad matchup for Villa. They've won 3 of the last 5 head-to-heads. Villa obviously play on Thursday. Newcastle get to play on Wednesday, which is another huge advantage. I think Villa are away from home as well in their Europa League. Newcastle at home. So in terms of rest, that's a nice one. And underlying data-wise, we might be at a point where it's going to start catching up with Aston Villa. There is the performance last week against Everton is basically the same kind of performance they've been doing every week, but they've been.
I didn't like the comments by Unai Emery.
You can understand them though. Can't you?
I do, but I just
they've just sold Daniel Marlin, who went and scored on his Roma debut, and they're lacking serious options in forward areas.
They're in for a striker though. They're going to be in for a striker. It's a big problem. Even getting Jadon Sancho on loan, what was the point? Like, I don't understand why that. It was like they were desperate to bring in another attacking player, and they landed on Sancho, which I think has caused them more problems than it solved. And now they're in the market for a striker, and whether it's Mateta or someone else, like we'll see how it plays. They're going to bring in another attacking player, but we'll see how long that process takes. But yeah, I mean, Newcastle is the play all day. I believe they get some players back from injury as well. But the only reason why I'm staying away entirely is just the Champions League. Like, this is sandwiched between Champions League, and I'm just not sure what's going to happen as we sit here on a Wednesday. That's it. But if there was a side I'd pick, it would be Newcastle. All right. Anything else?
Brentford to beat Nottingham Forest. Big chalk for me. Brentford at home. Very, very strong side. We always like to back them when they're a nice number. 7 wins out of 11 at home, just 1 defeat. They've been very, very good, and the underlying process is excellent as well. So I don't see a reason why we should be backing against them. And obviously Nottingham Forest are another team that have got the midweek European stuff to deal with. On Thursday, they're away in Braga. So they have that. It's a pretty big game as well for their chances of finishing the top 8. So you would expect a fairly strong team. And this game is just sandwiched in between their final 2 Europa games. So it could be a bad spot for Forest. And I know that they're scrapping around the bottom of the league anyway, so they do need results. There's only 5 points between them and West Ham. But this is a very, very tough place to go. And let's be honest, anybody who watched that game between Brentford and Chelsea last week will know that Brentford were by far and away the better team, should have beat Chelsea, and then obviously they will be looking even better in this league table right now. But plus money for a Brentford win against a team, bottom 5, bottom 6 team, no-brainer.
My second favorite play of the Premier League weekend, Brentford to win outright. I'm also going to back Fulham at home against Brighton. They lost last week at Leeds, like a late goal scored by Leeds United. But we've documented this. Ellen Road's a tough place to go. And Fulham, well managed, but they've really missed the 3 Nigerian players who've been away at AFCON. They're all going to come straight back into the team and potentially be available, which makes, for me, a strong Fulham side that much stronger. Brighton's had a difficult run of fixtures over the last month, and I just think the timing really works well for a Fulham side who's proven to be a really good side at home. They've been competitive across the board. Plus 162. That's a playable number for me as well. So I'll back Fulham to win at home against Brighton. That's just about it for me. I was looking at Monday Night Football. Everton's in a kind of a similar situation, getting Njai and Idrissa Gueye back from AFCON. But the Grealish injury, I'm just not quite sure I'm as confident as I was maybe 48 hours ago. But I'm leaning Everton for Monday Night Football, but no firm play for me there. And that's it from the Prem.
Yeah, I think like I said, Brentford were by far and away the better team against Chelsea last week. But the way in which Palace is kind of unravelling and their season is almost feels like it's falling apart. Plus money about Chelsea away at Selhurst Park. I make that probable. I make that value. It's just whether you want to trust and put your money into the Blues under Rosenior, given we've only seen 3 matches so far. And there's been some good parts. There's been some really bad parts. But Palace are another team that if they're at it, obviously they get Ismail Assar back, so they've got a little bit of a boost there in terms of their returning players. They're still missing Munoz, which is huge. But if they're at it, they can cause similar problems to what Brentford did against Chelsea. So I do think there's a bit of value, but I do want to just see a little bit more of Chelsea.
It's also Conte coming back, playing Chelsea next week in the Champions League as well. Just a little bit of a look at. There's going to be a lot of oxygen taken out of the room about Conte, Chelsea. It's a huge game for Napoli. They need to go on and come away with a result to secure a top 24 spot in the Champions League. They're really struggling, so I'm just going to swerve that altogether. Okay, I think that's it from the Prem. Unless you want to dive deeper, anything else?
No, I think we've covered all the games apart from Bournemouth, Liverpool.
Yeah, which I don't like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me neither.
yeah, that's it. Okay, let's move on to La Liga. What are you looking at this weekend?
I only have one fancy in La Liga, and it's Girona to beat Getafe plus 113, which is just, I'm very surprised about the number. Girona are on a great run of form, 4 wins in the last 5, climbed well out of trouble. They're now got 5 points between themselves and the bottom 3, and Getafe just falling the opposite way. 4 defeats in the last 5, winless. Just 2 points above the bottom 3, and they lost to Valencia last week, which was a massive result because Valencia were just below them in the table. And yeah, I just think that there's value to be. I think Girona have shown now that they're not the start of the season. Their underlying data was absolutely horrific, if everyone remembers, and they were looking like they were going to be
Turn it around.
They're big time turned it around. They're looking like a top half team now all of a sudden with the results and the major metrics. So I think that this is a good time to kind of get on them. And yeah, I wouldn't put anybody off backing them to win to 0 if they wanted a bigger grab at a big price, because Getafe are the worst attacking team in the entire league. They've scored just 15 goals in 20. I know Oviedo have scored fewer. They've scored 11 in 20, but Oviedo have created 5 expected goals more than Getafe. Getafe are the worst in the league at creating chances. So maybe take Girona win to 0, which I believe is something that has occurred in 3 of the last 4 wins.
Okay. I like Rayo Vallecano at home. The number shifted to plus 111 against Osasuna. Osasuna they scored 3 away goals all season long, 0-2 and 8. Not very good. They've had a couple better performances over the last few weeks, but away from home against the Vallecano side, who's tough playing at home. I think that is a backable number. Villarreal's hosting Real Madrid, but after that 6-1, I think you missed the boat. The fact that Villarreal lost to Ajax on Tuesday and Real Madrid all of a sudden playing much better attacking football. It was a really good performance against a poor defensive Monaco side that was missing some players. But if you wanted to back Real Madrid, I mean, it shifted from like plus 115 down to even money. So I just think that if you want to back the away side, you've kind of missed it. I think that Villarreal are kind of now regressing to the mean. 2 very similar plays, and I think I'm going to go on and make one of them. Atletico Madrid at home has been an absolute wagon on the season. They take on Mallorca, who are statistically, I mean, just in terms of like expected point total away from home, they're second from the bottom. Only Elche is worse, and Elche's played 1 game fewer. Mallorca is 1-2-7 away from home. And obviously, I think that this sets up well for one of the best home sides in La Liga. 9-1-0, 23 scored, 7 conceded, and huge XG numbers for Atletico Madrid. But there's a couple ways you can attack this. You can back them on the handicap. I believe it's at minus. It's come down to minus 106 right now. But I think the better way to approach this is Atletico Madrid to win this game going away with it. Both teams to score no and over 2.5. It's the Wheeler special when it comes to Bayern Munich, because I think that Atletico Madrid can win by multiple goals here. I think that Mallorca is going to be hard pressed to find the back of the net. Plus 332. I just think that is absolutely worth the punt. An elite home side in La Liga, you got to back them virtually every time that they're playing at home against a side that simply can't travel and struggles to create on a good day. So plus 332, the Wheeler special, both teams to score no and over 2.5. I consider making the exact same play for Barcelona this weekend as well, but you're not getting as much juice. Barcelona, Real Oviedo, like the spread is set at 2.5 and the total is set at 4. So you're kind of like, you think in Barcelona, okay, they play in the Champions League, but they lost to Sociedad last week. Like, this is the proverbial bounce back spot. Like, playing at home against, a really poor team. And just looking at the numbers, the total is at 4 for the match at minus 101. The team total for Barcelona is set at 3.5 at plus 118. I mean, over for Real Oviedo, it's like a toss-up. It's just about even money for them to score a goal in this game. So why don't you just back the same thing, the Wheeler special, both teams to score no, over 2.5, and you can get that at plus 183. It's just a different way to slice it, where I think that you're kind of betting on the same thing if you're looking at a Barcelona team total. Barcelona on the spread, again, is 2.5. I mean, so I just think that that's the better way to go. Barcelona try to keep a clean sheet. The market's telling you that the goals are there to be had for them. So that's kind of my way of approaching both those fixtures. Makes sense to you, Jake? Worth backing at all?
Yeah, I definitely agree on the latter, the Barca Oviedo. I think that's a nice way to hike the price up, just because, as you said, you've got Barca minus 940 just to win, 2.5 handicap. So if they're going to cover that, they're going to score at least 3 goals. Then you're basically just saying Oviedo aren't going to score, which is something they haven't done a lot of. So yeah, I quite like that boost in price.
Celta Vigo going to Real Sociedad. Celta Vigo have been an excellent side. Plus half a goal at minus 117 is the best way to approach it for me. Celta Vigo 5-3-1. They've only lost 1 game away from home all season long. So if they maintain that kind of form, they're a top 5 team in expected point total away from home over the season. And Sociedad, good result against Barcelona, but we'll see what happens. And I'm with you on the Girona Getafe as well. That was one of my favorite plays. So I think that's about it in La Liga. Just checking. Yeah, that's it in La Liga. Let's move on to Serie A, Italian football this weekend. What are you seeing, if anything, there? I know that we have Juventus Napoli, I believe, this weekend. So
We do.
Conte going to a former club, back-to-back games with a very depleted side. I mean, I know that backing Juventus didn't work well for me last weekend, but this seems to be a much more preferable spot. I said it, like, if it's not Højlund, who hasn't scored in his last 6 now, or McTominay, who did score midweek, like, where are the goals coming from? They're so thin in terms of attacking options, are Napoli.
They are, yes, but I would not. I don't think I can back Juventus at a plus 107 against the reigning champs, who've above them in the table. And yeah, even if they are missing, I think that's a very disrespectful price to Napoli. So I would not be looking at backing Juventus at that price. I don't think
They've been really bad. They've been really poor, especially away from home, Napoli.
Yeah, I mean, I think I struggled to back this if it was Inter, to be honest, at plus 107, because Napoli have got capabilities to do random stuff on the day, as we saw them do at Inter not so long ago, when they went there, drew 2-2. So yeah, I'm not quite understanding this price on Juventus, to be honest. They've not shown anywhere near enough to suggest that they should be going off at this sort of price. And the market is basically saying that Juventus are a better team than Napoli if they were met on a neutral playing field, which I don't think is quite the case. So yeah, I would be leaning towards Napoli, but as you said, it's a game that's sandwiched awkwardly between Champions League games where they're really on the verge of missing out. So that has to come into the thinking. Ultimately, I'm just going to no bet on this one and just focus on the other big game in Italy, which is the game after Roma versus Milan.
Okay. And what are you looking at there?
Milan on the handicap, plus 108, draw no bet. Yeah, it's a surprise to me that we're getting such a big price on the draw no bet for Milan here, because Milan have been the better team than Roma on underlying data. They're obviously better in the league table. They've got 4 more points than them. They're unbeaten away from home. They've had some very good away results, and they've had no midweek game to contend with, whereas Roma are playing on Thursday. So yeah, I think there's a lot in Milan's favour, and they've shown consistently that they are one of the better defensive teams in the league. And if they keep this as a cagey, low-scoring affair, which obviously the line's set at 2.25, the goal total, then that really does bring the draw into play, which means that the draw no bet is a very sensible bet, and I do think that Milan have shown more than Roma in the forward areas. I know Roma have picked up recently with a couple of 3-2-0 wins in a row, but even so, I think I trust Milan to get the better of this one. Although I'm not ruling out a 0-0. This could easily be a 0-0.
I'm just going to completely swerve that match. I'm never right on AC Milan. When they're hot, I'm cold, and when they're cold, I'm hot. So it's just not a match there. I will look to Atalanta to keep their really good defensive run going against Parma, plus 135. Win to nil. Atalanta have been very good defensively. Gave up a late goal away. That's key word, away at Pisa last week. But Parma's a poor attacking side, especially away from home. They're fourth from the bottom in expected goals on the season, and it seems to be a good spot to back Atalanta to come away with a clean sheet. I also like Sassuolo taking on Cremonese. Cremonese can't score. Like, they've been shut out in 5 of their last 6 games. Sassuolo's had a difficult run of form, but I still think that you're backing the much better side at home, and minus 105 is a playable range for me. I'd back it all the way out to minus 120 before I maybe take a step away, but I think you're getting some decent enough value there. Okay, to the Bundesliga we go, and anything else that may be on Jake's radar. What's going on in Germany this weekend?
Well, there's the small matter of the Hamburg derby on Friday night, and as well as it being potentially violent with a lot of cards, I was looking to see if there was some card markets up, but there aren't at the moment on Pinnacle, so keep your eyes open. I think there's going to be goals, because the line, we just have to back the goals at this line. It's 2.25, which is extremely low for the Bundesliga. And it looks even more ridiculously low when you factor in that St. Pauli have seen 6 of their 7 home games this season go over 2.5 goals. So incredible striker. In Hamburg away from home, 5 of their 8 have gone over 2.5 goals. So that would mean full payouts here. So I'm not quite understanding why this line's so low. Then you factor in that it's a big game at the bottom of the table, where there's 5 points between the two sides. I think they're both currently in the bottom 5. So as well as derby bragging rights, there's also the small matter of trying to avoid relegation. I think that's going to lead to quite an end-to-end match with plenty of goals involved. Yeah, it's one of my favourite plays at the minute, is when you see anything that's below 2.5, 2.75 in the Bundesliga, is just to back it, because usually it delivers.
Yeah. Is that it in the Bundesliga?
No, I'm going to take a swing on Bayern Munich's handicap, which is set at 2 3/4 as they take on Augsburg. You might think that's a bit of a reach. We are getting plus 103, which is a bonus. But yeah, we're talking about an Augsburg team that are 1-1-6 away from home. They've averaged 1 expected goal for per game, 2 expected goals against per game, but they've not played any of the good teams yet away from home, and they're still putting up these results and data. So they've not played at Bayern, they've not played at Dortmund, they've not played at Leipzig, they've not played at Leverkusen. Last away game, they were beaten 4-0 by Borussia Mönchengladbach, and before that, they were beaten 3-0 by high-flying Hoffenheim. Bayern Munich, 8-1-0 at home. They've won by 3 or more goals in 6 of 9 home games, 4 or more goals in 5 of 9, and are averaging 3.3 expected goals for per game. So we basically need them to win by 3 goals here to make money, and I think that's extremely likely, especially as they're probably going to win tonight in the Champions League, which will all but secure them a top 8 finish and mean that they can rotate ahead of the midweek next week. So, and let's not forget, this is probably something we're going to keep bringing up. Bayern Munich are chasing the all-time scoring record in the Bundesliga. That is something that is on their radar. So if you think they're going to go 2-0 up or 3-0 up and take the foot off the gas, think again. So if you have a serious mismatch and you think that Bayern Munich are going to win quite comfortably, back them to win very comfortably, because they will be going all out to try and break that record.
They've scored 20. They've scored 3 goals or more in 22 of their 28 games in all competitions. Bayern Munich scoring 3 goals in the Bundesliga has become table stakes. So that's where you start. That's where the Wheeler special came from. Then it's just a matter of them being able to keep a clean sheet. So let's Wheeler special this up, because this is how you're going to get more juice. Augsburg, one of the poorest away teams. You said they haven't played anyone good away from home, about an expected goal away from home per game. So let's just back Bayern Munich to keep a clean sheet and score 3 or more goals. Both teams scored no, over 2.5 at plus 168. Like this is where the Wheeler special came from, and we're going to back it. I also love the play backing Bayer Leverkusen to beat Werder Bremen, and for the total to go over 2.5. This is the Bundesliga. There's plenty of goals, and Werder Bremen loves to concede. In their last recent games, conceded 3 at home to Eintracht Frankfurt, conceded 3 away to Borussia Dortmund before that, conceded 4 at home to Stuttgart in recent vintage, conceded 3 away to Hamburg. Like, this is what they do. Look, they're decent enough attacking side. Maybe they can score against Leverkusen. Leverkusen didn't play that poorly and lost to Olympiacos, a difficult place to go. And they're going to need to start stringing some wins together in the Bundesliga. And I think that this is a good fixture for them, particularly playing at home. I also like Union Berlin and Borussia Dortmund over 2.5, and both teams to score yes at plus 138. Dortmund just can't keep a clean sheet. Still a very good attacking side. Look, the sending off against Spurs, I'm just going to push that to the side, but I have no doubt that they can go to Union Berlin. But I mean, Borussia Dortmund can't keep clean sheets either. And I think that there might be some value playing over the total of 3 in Eintracht Frankfurt and Hoffenheim. It's not going to make my card, but I think it's worthwhile to mention, as that Eintracht Frankfurt number for all the goals that are scored in their game, the totals have come down in terms of what the markets are offering, because there was a string of games where they played to a bunch of unders. It's recalibrated, but I still think when it's at 3, that's still a bettable range for Eintracht Frankfurt. So Hoffenheim, by the way, playing very, very well. They're in the top 4. I believe they're 3rd place right now in the Bundesliga and on a really good run of form. Just want to mention that. Anything else across European football? Or are we good to go to the big board?
Yeah, let's go to the big board.
Okay. You can bat lead off here. There might be multiple Wheeler specials. It might not.
I love it. Yeah, I'm keeping it pretty straightforward. 5 1-unit plays. They're all plus money as well, which is nice. Wolves plus 1 3/4 on the handicap. I'm taking them at Man City plus 105. Yeah, you can call me brave. Brentford to beat Nottingham Forest at plus 102. Girona to beat Getafe plus 113. Over 2.25 goals in St. Pauli versus Hamburg at plus 103. And I'm going to take Bayern to cover the handicap at plus 103. So that's Bayern minus 2 3/4 against Augsburg.
Okay. Brentford. It's gone down to plus 102, correct?
Yep.
From plus 104. Okay. I'm going to back Brentford to win, just like Jake. I'm going to back Atletico Madrid, both teams to score no, and over 2.5 at plus 332. I will do the Wheeler special, both teams to score no, plus over 2.5 for Barcelona, Real Oviedo as well at plus 183. I will then go Wheeler special number 3, Bayern Munich, both teams to score no, plus over 2.5 at plus 168. And Bayer Leverkusen to win and over 2.5 at plus 115 over Werder Bremen. Bro, I need to get back towards the Mendoza line, or whatever you want to call it. Wheeler special weekend across European football. Let's swing big. And the logic is there. I want to take these approaches for 3 considerable home favorites taking on really poor away sides. And let's hope it comes in some clean sheets across the board for your boy Wheels this weekend. Good stuff, Jake. We're back at it Monday, the final match day of the Champions League, which is a good reminder. The feedback has been great. The viewership, the listenership is going up. Thank you for that. Please subscribe, hit the like button. We appreciate all that you do. On behalf of Jake and everyone here at Pinnacle, I am Gareth Wheeler. This has been episode 75 of Pinnacle FC.